Ladies and gentlemen, today we confront a silent but persistent thief of our time and potential: procrastination. This is not merely about laziness or poor time management. It is a deeply rooted behavior, often tied to fear, anxiety, or perfectionism. Understanding its complexity is the first step in overcoming it. Procrastination often begins quietly: a delayed email, an untouched textbook, a task pushed to tomorrow. But these small deferrals compound over time, leading to a cycle of guilt, stress, and underachievement. To break this cycle, we must first recognize what triggers our delay. Is it fear of failure, a lack of clarity, or simply the overwhelming weight of an unstructured day? Once we identify these triggers, we can begin applying structured solutions. Time management isn't about filling every minute, it's about using our time intentionally. Techniques like time blocking, task batching, or the Pomodoro technique can help us stay on track and avoid burnout. Yet, tools alone are not enough. We must train our minds to act with discipline, not just when we feel like it, but especially when we don't. Habits are built through consistency, not motivation, and discipline, when practiced daily, becomes second nature. A shift in mindset is equally vital. We need to stop viewing tasks as burdens and start seeing them as opportunities for growth. A growth mindset tells us that effort leads to progress and mistakes are steps toward mastery. Let's not wait for the perfect moment, it rarely comes. Start small, be consistent, celebrate progress, not perfection. The journey from procrastination to productivity is not about doing more, but doing what matters now. Say goodbye to procrastination and say hello to your true potential. Procrastination is one of the most common challenges faced by individuals across all age groups, backgrounds, and professional fields. At its core, procrastination is the act of delaying or postponing tasks, responsibilities, or decisions that require action. This may seem like a harmless or even strategic behavior in some cases, but over time, chronic procrastination can significantly impact one's academic performance, career progression, emotional well-being, and personal growth. To effectively address and overcome procrastination, we must begin by deeply understanding what it truly is beyond its surface definition, and explore the underlying psychological, emotional, and behavioral dimensions that drive it. Many people mistakenly assume that procrastination is simply a result of laziness or lack of willpower. However, research in psychology tells a more complex story. Procrastination is often a coping mechanism rooted in our emotional response to specific tasks. When a task triggers discomfort, whether due to fear of failure, uncertainty about how to begin, perceived difficulty, or simply boredom, our natural instinct is to avoid it. This avoidance offers immediate relief, a temporary escape from negative emotions. But this relief is short-lived. As deadlines draw closer and pressure mounts, the stress intensifies, often leading to rushed work, poor outcomes, and a cycle of self-criticism. Despite promising ourselves to do better next time, we often fall back into the same pattern. Understanding procrastination also requires examining the brain's relationship with time. Human brains are wired to prioritize short-term rewards over long-term gains. This phenomenon, known as temporal discounting, means we value immediate gratification more than future benefits, even when we intellectually know the long-term outcome is more important. For example, choosing to scroll through social media instead of starting a research paper may feel satisfying in the moment, but it delays meaningful progress and builds up anxiety for later. Recognizing that procrastination is not simply a lack of effort, but a misalignment of short-term desires with long-term goals can help us approach the problem more constructively. Another key factor in procrastination is perfectionism. People who set extremely high standards for themselves may delay starting tasks out of fear that they won't meet their own expectations. They may spend an excessive amount of time planning, organizing, or waiting for the perfect time to begin. In reality, this perfectionist mindset becomes a barrier to action, leading to paralysis and missed opportunities. Perfectionism and procrastination are often intertwined, feeding each other in a loop of inaction and self-doubt. Emotional regulation also plays a significant role. Individuals who struggle to manage stress, anxiety, frustration, or low self-esteem may procrastinate more often. Tasks that trigger unpleasant emotions are avoided in order to protect one's emotional state. But this avoidance only delays the inevitable and often worsens the emotional toll. Developing the ability to tolerate discomfort and push through resistance is a key step in breaking free from procrastination. Additionally, our environment can influence how likely we are to procrastinate. Distractions, clutter, lack of structure, and easy access to time wasting activities can make procrastination more tempting and harder to resist. When our surroundings do not support focus and productivity, our ability to take action diminishes. Environmental design, such as organizing a dedicated workspace, turning off notifications, and reducing visual clutter, can help reduce external triggers that contribute to procrastination. Procrastination also often involves distorted thinking patterns. For instance, we might convince ourselves that we work better under pressure, or that there's still plenty of time. These are rationalizations we use to delay action, even when deep down we know they are not entirely true. These thoughts provide comfort in the short term, but ultimately lead to increased stress and poorer outcomes. Becoming aware of these thought patterns and challenging their validity is essential to overcoming procrastination. Finally, it's important to recognize that procrastination is not a personal flaw, but a learned behavior that can be changed. Everyone procrastinates at some point, and it does not mean a person lacks ability or intelligence. By learning to understand the psychological roots and triggers of procrastination, we can begin to take intentional steps toward change. This process begins with self-awareness, observing our habits without judgment, identifying the situations that lead to avoidance, and reflecting on how these patterns affect our lives. From there, we can implement strategies to change our behavior, reframe our mindset, and ultimately regain control over our time and actions. Understanding procrastination is the foundation for change. It shifts the focus from blame to responsibility, from frustration to strategy, and from delay to action. When we understand why we procrastinate, we are better equipped to say goodbye to it, not by fighting it with brute force, but by addressing its roots with clarity, compassion, and commitment. To effectively overcome procrastination, one must first learn to recognize the triggers that cause it. Procrastination does not occur in a vacuum. It is usually a response to certain emotional, mental, or environmental factors that push individuals to delay action. By identifying these triggers, we can better understand our behavior and take intentional steps to change it. Recognition is the foundation of self-management. Without it, we are likely to repeat the same patterns unknowingly. This keynote will explore the most common procrastination triggers and the psychological mechanisms behind them. One of the most significant and frequently overlooked triggers is fear, specifically fear of failure. When people are uncertain about their ability to succeed at a task, they may delay starting it altogether. This fear often comes from a belief that our performance defines our worth. If a student worries that they will not write a good essay, they may avoid beginning the assignment, reasoning that not trying is less painful than trying and failing. Ironically, by delaying, they reduce the time available and increase the likelihood of underperformance. Recognizing fear as a trigger allows us to shift our focus from results to effort and growth, which can reduce anxiety and promote action. Closely related to fear is the concept of perfectionism. While it might seem admirable to strive for excellence, perfectionism often leads to procrastination. Perfectionists set impossibly high standards for themselves and feel that their work must be flawless. This mindset makes starting a task feel overwhelming because nothing ever seems good enough. As a result, perfectionists may spend too much time planning or revising, or they may delay starting altogether, waiting for the perfect conditions. Recognizing this trigger means accepting that perfection is unattainable and that progress is more valuable than flawlessness. Another major trigger is lack of motivation or interest. If a task seems boring, irrelevant, or disconnected from our goals, we are far more likely to put it off. For example, students may procrastinate on studying a subject they dislike, while professionals may delay administrative work they find tedious. This kind of procrastination is often linked to a lack of intrinsic motivation, the inner drive to do something for its own sake. To combat this, it's helpful to connect the task to a broader purpose or outcome, even if the task itself isn't exciting. Recognizing this trigger can help individuals reframe how they see their responsibilities, turning them into steps toward larger personal or professional goals. Another common trigger is feeling overwhelmed. When a task feels too big or complex, it can cause paralysis. The mind may struggle to know where to start, and this uncertainty leads to inaction. Often, people think they need to finish everything at once, rather than breaking the task into smaller, manageable parts. This all or nothing thinking can make even simple tasks feel impossible. Recognizing overwhelm as a trigger allows us to take a strategic approach, breaking tasks into steps, creating clear starting points, and building momentum gradually. Distractions are also a major contributor to procrastination, especially in today's digital world. Notifications, social media, and multitasking environments fragment our attention and make it difficult to stay focused. Even minor interruptions can derail our concentration, leading us to avoid tasks that require deep focus. Recognizing environmental triggers such as a noisy workspace, an open browser tab, or even an untidy room is key to building an environment that supports productivity. By eliminating or reducing distractions, individuals can create conditions where focus is more natural and sustained. Another subtle but powerful trigger is low self-esteem or lack of confidence. When individuals doubt their abilities or believe they are not good enough, they may avoid starting tasks that could reinforce those negative self-beliefs. This form of procrastination is self-protective. By not trying, a person avoids the possibility of confirming their fears about themselves. However, in doing so, they also miss out on opportunities for growth and learning. Recognizing this trigger involves acknowledging self-doubt and working to build self-compassion and resilience. Finally, unclear goals or vague instructions can trigger procrastination. If someone doesn't understand what is expected or doesn't have a clear idea of what the task entails, it's natural to delay beginning. Ambiguity creates anxiety, and people tend to avoid what they cannot clearly define. Clarifying expectations, asking questions, or outlining a plan can help reduce this uncertainty. Recognizing this kind of trigger reminds us of the importance of structure and clarity in our work and studies. In summary, recognizing procrastination triggers is about building awareness of what causes avoidance behaviors in the first place. Whether it's fear, perfectionism, boredom, overwhelm, distractions, low confidence, or lack of clarity, each trigger can be identified and addressed with conscious effort. This process of self-awareness empowers individuals to regain control over their actions. When we know our triggers, we are no longer reacting blindly, we are responding thoughtfully. That is the beginning of lasting change. While procrastination might offer short-term comfort or relief, the long-term consequences of delaying action are far more damaging. Understanding the cost of procrastination is essential because it helps us see what we are sacrificing each time we choose temporary ease over meaningful progress. These costs are not always immediately visible, but they accumulate steadily, affecting our academic success, career potential, mental well-being, personal relationships, and overall quality of life. One of the most obvious costs of procrastination is a reduction in productivity. When tasks are delayed, deadlines often become tighter, and time to complete them shrinks. This leads to rushed, lower quality work and missed opportunities for refinement or revision. In educational settings, for example, students who wait until the last minute to study or complete assignments may underperform, not because they lack intelligence or knowledge, but because they didn't allow enough time to think critically, practice, or improve their work. In professional contexts, procrastination can result in poor time management, missed deadlines, and reduced credibility with colleagues or clients. In both cases, the opportunity to produce one's best work is lost. Closely tied to productivity is increased stress and anxiety. Procrastination often creates a mental burden. Even when we are not actively working on a task, the knowledge that it remains undone weighs on our minds. This creates an ongoing state of tension, often referred to as the mental clutter, that hinders focus and peace of mind. The longer we delay, the more pressure we feel. Ironically, the stress created by procrastination can become more intense than the task itself. What could have been handled calmly and confidently becomes a frantic race against time. Chronic procrastinators often report feeling overwhelmed not by the tasks themselves, but by the stress caused by putting them off. There is also a cognitive cost to procrastination. When we avoid tasks for long periods, we lose the advantage of learning through active engagement. For instance, delaying the start of a research project may mean less time to digest the material, ask questions, or gain deeper understanding. Our brains benefit from spaced repetition and incremental exposure to information, which helps us retain and apply knowledge more effectively. When we cram or rush due to procrastination, we sacrifice meaningful learning and rely instead on short-term memory. This approach may yield temporary results, but it weakens long-term understanding and intellectual growth. The emotional consequences of procrastination are equally significant. Frequent procrastinators often experience feelings of guilt, shame, and low self-worth. After delaying a task and facing negative outcomes, individuals may blame themselves harshly, thinking, "I'm lazy," or "I can never get anything done." These internal messages damage self-esteem and create a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more we believe we are ineffective, the less confident we feel about beginning future tasks. Over time, this can erode motivation and cause individuals to disengage altogether, fearing that they will never break the cycle. Thus, procrastination not only delays work, but also undermines the very mindset needed to work effectively. In addition, procrastination often damages trust and relationships, especially in collaborative settings. When one person delays their part of a group project, the entire team can suffer. Missed deadlines or broken commitments may frustrate colleagues, supervisors, or classmates, leading to strained professional and academic relationships. On a personal level, chronic procrastination can affect family life or friendships, particularly when responsibilities at home or promises to others are repeatedly put off. People may begin to perceive the procrastinator as unreliable or disengaged, even if that person cares deeply but struggles internally. This misalignment between intention and action can lead to misunderstandings and emotional distance. Beyond the immediate academic or professional sphere, procrastination can have a long-term impact on life goals and personal growth. Many of the goals we set for ourselves, whether it's learning a new skill, starting a business, writing a book, or improving health, require consistent action over time. When we repeatedly delay these goals, we miss critical windows of opportunity. Time is a finite resource, and lost time is rarely recoverable. The habit of delaying not only steals the present moment, but also gradually narrows our future options. Years can pass with important goals still on hold, simply because the habit of procrastination was never addressed. In conclusion, procrastination comes at a cost, one that is often hidden until it accumulates to a level that can no longer be ignored. The loss of productivity, the rise in stress, the erosion of confidence, the strain on relationships, and the postponement of long-term dreams all stem from the decision to delay action. Recognizing these consequences is not meant to induce guilt, but to spark awareness. When we fully understand the cost of procrastination, we are more motivated to take ownership of our time and choices. Action becomes not just a responsibility, but a pathway to peace, progress, and purpose. Time is one of the most valuable and non-renewable resources available to us. Once it is lost, it cannot be regained. For individuals who struggle with procrastination, effective time management can serve as both a preventive measure and a powerful remedy. Contrary to the belief that time management is simply about filling every hour with productivity, it is actually about making deliberate, thoughtful choices about how to use time in alignment with one's goals, priorities, and energy levels. In this section, we will explore a range of practical, research-supported time management techniques that help individuals become more focused, organized, and intentional with their time. One widely recommended technique is the Pomodoro technique, which is especially effective for people who feel overwhelmed by long tasks. Developed by Francesco Cirillo, this method involves breaking work into short, focused intervals, traditionally 25 minutes in length, called Pomodoros, followed by a 5-minute break. After 4 such intervals, a longer break 15-30 minutes is taken. This technique works because it limits the time you need to concentrate, making tasks feel more manageable. It also introduces regular rest periods to prevent mental fatigue. The Pomodoro technique encourages a sense of urgency while reducing the likelihood of burnout and distraction. Another foundational time management strategy is time blocking. This method involves scheduling your day in fixed blocks of time, each assigned to a specific activity or category of tasks. Instead of keeping a vague to-do list, you decide exactly when you will complete each task. For example, from 9:00 to 10:00 a.m. might be blocked for studying, 10:00 to 10:30 for responding to emails, and so on. Time blocking forces you to be realistic about what you can achieve in a day and helps prevent overcommitting. It also trains your brain to transition smoothly from one activity to another, reducing the tendency to drift into procrastination. Prioritization techniques are equally important in time management. Not all tasks hold the same value, and effective time managers know how to distinguish between what is urgent and what is important. The Eisenhower matrix is a well-known tool that categorizes tasks into 4 quadrants: 1 urgent and important, 2 important but not urgent, 3 urgent but not important, and 4 neither urgent nor important. By evaluating tasks using this framework, individuals can focus on what truly matters instead of reacting impulsively to minor, urgent distractions. The goal is to spend more time in quadrant 2, important but not urgent, where long-term planning, personal growth, and proactive work reside. Another valuable concept is the 2-minute rule, popularized by productivity expert David Allen. This rule states that if a task will take 2 minutes or less, do it immediately. This simple habit reduces the buildup of small, easily completed tasks that tend to clutter our mental space and to-do lists. Examples include replying to a short email, filing a document, or putting away materials. Acting on these quickly keeps the workflow smooth and prevents the compounding effect of micro delays that often snowball into larger periods of procrastination. In addition to techniques that structure time, setting SMART goals specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound helps ensure clarity and direction. Vague goals such as study more or get better at math are less likely to prompt action than specific goals like complete 2 practice problems from Chapter 5 by 4, 00 p.m. SMART goals break ambitions into clear, manageable steps that make planning and execution easier. When time is managed around clearly defined objectives, the likelihood of procrastination decreases significantly. It is also essential to plan according to energy levels, not just availability. Not all hours of the day are equal in terms of mental sharpness or focus. Some people are most productive in the early morning, while others thrive in the afternoon or evening. Time management should include awareness of one's natural energy rhythms, assigning high focus tasks to peak periods and lower effort tasks to slower times. This alignment increases efficiency and reduces the cognitive resistance that often leads to procrastination. Importantly, reflection and review are key elements of successful time management. At the end of each day or week, taking a few minutes to assess what was accomplished, what was postponed, and why can yield valuable insights. This habit promotes continuous improvement and helps individuals adjust their approach based on real experiences rather than ideal schedules. In conclusion, time management is not about cramming every minute with work. It's about designing a schedule that reflects your values, responsibilities, and personal strengths. Techniques like the Pomodoro technique, time, blocking, prioritization through the Eisenhower matrix, the 2-minute rule, SMART goals, and energy-based planning empower individuals to take control of their time in a structured, thoughtful way. When these methods are applied consistently, they reduce the friction that causes procrastination and open the door to greater focus, balance, and achievement. Time, when managed wisely, becomes not a source of pressure, but a tool for progress. One of the most powerful ways to overcome procrastination is by building consistency through daily habits. Motivation, while helpful, is not always reliable. Some days you will feel inspired to act, and on other days you won't. If you depend solely on willpower or mood to get things done, you will struggle with inconsistency. Habits, on the other hand, are automatic behaviors once formed. They require less conscious effort. Developing effective habits not only reduces the likelihood of procrastination, but also increases your ability to take meaningful action, even when you don't feel like it. Understanding how habits work is the first step. According to behavioral psychology, every habit is formed through a loop that involves a cue, a routine, and a reward. The cue is the trigger that initiates the behavior. It could be a time of day, a location, an emotion, or a preceding action. The routine is the behavior itself, and the reward is what reinforces the habit, whether it's a sense of accomplishment, relief, or pleasure. By becoming aware of this loop, you can intentionally design habits that support productivity and reduce procrastination. Let's consider an example. Suppose you want to make studying a daily habit. You might set a cue, such as sitting at your desk right after lunch. The routine would be studying for 25 minutes using the Pomodoro technique, and the reward could be taking a short walk or enjoying a snack. Over time, your brain begins to associate the cue with the reward, making the routine feel more natural and less of a chore. The key is repetition. The more consistently you follow this loop, the more automatic the behavior becomes. A critical part of building habits is starting small. Many people try to change everything at once, setting ambitious goals like "I'll study for 4 hours every day" or "I'll completely stop wasting time." These goals are overwhelming and often lead to burnout or quick failure. Instead, begin with micro habits, very small actions that are almost too easy to fail. For example, opening your notebook every day at the same time, writing one sentence, or studying just one flashcard. These small actions lower resistance and create momentum. Once the small habit is firmly established, it can naturally grow into something more substantial. Environment design also plays a crucial role in habit formation. Your surroundings can either support or sabotage your habits. If you want to develop a habit of focused work, your environment should minimize distractions. This might mean keeping your phone in another room, using website blockers, or setting up a clean and dedicated workspace. Conversely, if procrastination has become a habit, it's likely supported by environmental cues like open social media tabs, noisy surroundings, or clutter. By modifying your environment to reduce these cues, you make it easier to stay consistent with productive routines. Habit stacking is another effective strategy. This technique involves linking a new habit to an existing one so that the current behavior becomes the cue for the new one. For example, if you already brush your teeth every morning, you might decide to immediately review your to-do list afterward. Or if you make tea every evening, you could use that moment to organize your workspace for the next day. Habit stacking takes advantage of routines you already perform consistently, making it easier to anchor new behaviors without radically changing your day. Tracking your habits can greatly enhance accountability and progress. Using a habit tracker or journal allows you to visually see your consistency over time. Even a simple calendar where you mark each successful day can be motivating. The visual streak becomes a reward in itself, a symbol of your commitment and growth. When you miss a day, it's important not to give up, but to follow the never miss twice rule. Skip once if necessary, but always return the next day. This mindset builds resilience and keeps the habit alive. Lastly, it's essential to be patient with the habit building process. Research suggests that it can take anywhere from 18 to 66 days for a new habit to become automatic, depending on the complexity of the behavior and the individual. During this time, consistency is more important than intensity. Doing a small task every day is more effective than doing a big task once a week. Over time, consistent action rewires your brain, reducing mental resistance and making productivity the default rather than the exception. In summary, beating procrastination is not about trying harder in moments of struggle. It's about creating systems that make action easier over time. Habits are those systems. By understanding the habit loop, starting small, optimizing your environment, stacking new habits onto old ones, tracking your progress and being patient, you can build a lifestyle of consistent productivity. This consistency becomes the antidote to procrastination, and eventually you'll find that doing the work becomes not just easier but natural. One of the subtle yet powerful drivers of procrastination is the desire to do things perfectly. While striving for excellence is a positive trait, perfectionism often leads to paralysis. Many people delay starting or completing tasks not because they are lazy or incapable, but because they fear that the outcome won't meet their own high standards or the expectations of others. This fear causes avoidance, which in turn feeds into a cycle of guilt, stress, and self-doubt. Learning to embrace progress over perfection is a critical mindset shift that helps dismantle procrastination and encourages consistent, meaningful action. Perfectionism sets an unrealistic benchmark, one that is often unattainable and, more importantly, unnecessary. In educational and professional settings, aiming for 100% perfection can create an overwhelming psychological burden. For instance, a student might hesitate to begin writing an essay because they don't yet have the perfect introduction, or a designer may delay submitting a project because they feel it's still not quite right. The result is stagnation. Ironically, in seeking flawless results, individuals often produce nothing at all. This is why embracing progress, the idea of making steady, incremental improvements, is far more effective and sustainable. Focusing on progress means valuing the process over the end product. It encourages individuals to begin where they are, with what they have, and to refine as they go. This shift fosters a growth mind, set the belief that skills and outcomes can improve through effort and experience. When individuals allow themselves to start imperfectly, they remove the biggest barrier to action, the fear of failure. It is through action, not overthinking, that improvement happens. A draft can be edited, a mistake can be corrected, and an idea can be refined, but only if you take the first step. Another important concept related to this shift is done is better than perfect. This simple yet powerful phrase reminds us that completing a task, even imperfectly, is often more valuable than postponing it indefinitely in the pursuit of perfection. For example, submitting a good enough assignment on time earns marks and builds momentum, while striving for a flawless version at the cost of missing the deadline can lead to a zero. The same principle applies to larger goals. A rough first version of a novel, business plan, or presentation brings you closer to your goals than a perfect version that never leaves your mind. It's also important to recognize that perfection is subjective. What one person considers perfect, another may view as overdone or lacking. Holding yourself to undefined or constantly shifting standards is a recipe for frustration. Progress, by contrast, is measurable and motivating. You can look at what you accomplished today and see that it's more than what you had yesterday. This sense of movement fuels confidence and encourages continued effort. Over time, consistent progress leads to quality not through a single perfect effort, but through layers of learning and refinement. Embracing progress also cultivates self-compassion. When you understand that it's okay to make mistakes and to grow gradually, you treat yourself with more kindness. This reduces the shame and pressure that often accompany procrastination. Instead of thinking, "I must get this right the first time," a more helpful mindset is, "Let me try this and see what I can learn." This approach turns every task into an opportunity, not a test. And because you no longer fear mistakes, you become more willing to take risks, explore ideas, and develop creativity, all of which are essential for meaningful achievement. To put this mindset into practice, consider setting process-oriented goals instead of only outcome-based goals. Rather than saying, "I must finish the entire report by tonight," aim for, "I will spend the next hour outlining the main points." Instead of, "I have to master this topic today," say, "I will make progress by reviewing 2 sections and summarizing them in my own words." These small wins accumulate and eventually lead to large successes. The focus is not on being perfect, it's on being present, consistent, and open to growth. In conclusion, perfection is not the prerequisite for action, it is often the obstacle. When we wait for the perfect moment, the perfect idea, or the perfect version of ourselves, we delay our progress and limit our potential. By embracing imperfection, taking consistent steps forward, and valuing effort over error-free results, we free ourselves from the mental blocks that cause procrastination. Progress over perfection is not a compromise, it is a path to real and lasting improvement. It teaches us that excellence is not about flawless performance, but about showing up, doing the work, and learning along the way.